I just remember the name of the home, the school where we lived in Jerusalem. It was called Beit Tzirot. That means the house of girls, because a school of girls. There were no boys at all in that school. And the total, I think the total amount of girls there was about 250 or so. And we each had those jobs. Every morning it was school, half a day, and every afternoon it was those different jobs we each had. Anyway, the rooms were beautiful, our living quarters. There were eight in a room. And again, it's going to start to sound repetitious. Of the 8, Edith was again one of them. And I was there, and there were 6 others, 2 others from Belgium, and the other 4 were from France. And we all got along very, very well. We were very compatible with one another. And it really wasn't bad at all. Of course, since there were only 8 and the room was quite big, it was quite comfortable. The dining area, of course, that was very noisy, needless to say. There was a routine to it after a while, and we all adapted pretty well. But beside the normal school we had to learn Hebrew, and we had extensive course in Hebrew, where it wasn't just the language, it was reading and writing, and we had 2 hours of that every single day. And I learned it extremely fast. Well, all of us did. At that age, you catch on very, very fast. But among ourselves, of course, we continued to speak French. And because the other 3 from Belgium also spoke French. In Belgium, there's Flemish and French. But the Jewish people who lived in Belgium, their children went to school, always to French school. The Jews only. So that we all got along very, very well. And I did many times miss my mother, my home, Belgium. But it was more the comfort, in a way, that I missed than... Well, there were times I guess I felt lonely. Since we were always so many of us together constantly, there was very little privacy. And that I missed a lot. So we were corresponding a lot, and I do have this to say, that my mother does not write, so that Maurice was the one in charge of all the latest news and the correspondence. And I also corresponded with my father in America. Now, it was the year 49, and the year prior to that, he had remarried. He had written to me that he had remarried. So he had married an American woman who was 12 years younger than him. Her name is Helen. I will bring her up and him much later again, because that's another story, another sad story. The corresponding with Maurice at the beginning was purely regarding how everybody was doing at home. My mother, his son, the job, his job, my mother's job, all the normal events. But after about 2 months of living in Jerusalem, in that school, one day I received a letter from him that was quite obvious. It was addressed to me, and not in the name of the whole family, but it was a love letter from him to me, where he said how he missed me, how he tried not to write to me in that fashion, how he misses me beyond words, how he loves me and adores me, and how he's trying to find a way of visiting me, and he's trying to figure out a good pretext, a good reason why he should come to Israel and visit me. So he was writing that he's thinking about it, and soon he'll come up with something. In other words, even in Israel, I still had that ghost. I couldn't get rid of it. He never should have written to me, of course, in such a manner. He should have just left me alone and let me live in peace and try to make a new life for myself where I was. But of course, that would have been too kind of him. It would never have occurred to him. There's no words for that creature. I mean, there's just no words for him. Well, what can I say? After I received that beautiful love letter, and boy, did he know how to write, I of course answered how I missed him and loved him, and it was almost like I don't know if I meant it all, if I really felt it all, but I just simply had to answer him. And instead of discouraging it, instead of not answering him and ignoring the fact that he had written to me, I don't know what made me answer him, and there's no question that I encouraged the correspondence. There's absolutely no question about that. I was very weak, obviously, or maybe a psychiatrist could explain it all to me, why I did what I did. I just didn't have to answer. I know I didn't. I should have just tried to get him all out of my mind, but the way he wrote, and his appeal to me, and his love for me, and all that garbage, that shit, those lies, I couldn't help but respond to it. And I just don't know why I did it, but I did encourage the correspondence. And after that, life went on in that place where it was school and working and different duties. And at the same time, I looked for the mail every day. When we were in the dining room meeting, that's when someone would come in with the mail and read off the names who got the mail, and then we'd run over there and get our mail. And I didn't care if I got letters from my father. All I wanted was to hear my name and get another love letter from Maurice. That's all that I waited for. So again, instead of having a normal teenage years as far as relating better to my friends and being well, by then I was just 16 years old. Instead of being a young girl and just relating better to my peers, I was really not one of them. Nobody knew. I couldn't tell anyone for where his letters at that point. And sure enough, I must say this, that to the family. Now, what would happen is that in that very first love letter, he had told me when I answered to write to P.O. Box number so-and-so, and that's how we would be corresponding. But anyway, one day, after we had written to each other a couple of times, I remember writing this time to the family, in other words, to my mother and my stepfather, quote. And I remember expressing, not a wish, but just saying that the one thing I miss very much is my bicycle, which I did mention in the past. It's not that important, but in Brussels, those 3 years that I spent with them, that was my way of traveling to school. It was always with my bike. Most kids go to school by bike. Well, everybody knows, of course, bicycles were the big way of traveling in Europe. And I remember expressing just saying how I missed my bicycle. Of course, I couldn't have brought that to Israel with me. That would have been out of the question. So anyway, one day, I get a letter from Maurice. That was a love letter. That wasn't in the name of the family. And he said, my darling, I finally found a reason that I can come and visit you. I will bring you your bicycle. To buy a bicycle in Israel was out of the question. I mean, it was a fortune. And of course I had no money at all. The Israeli government paid for where I was. I mean, nobody had any money. So he said to me that he finally found a good reason for him to come to visit me from Belgium. And that was going to be his first trip. He said that he spoke to my mother, and that there's a very cheap way of him coming to Israel on I don't remember exactly what it's called. It's a little freight boat where only 6-7 people can fit on, and a bicycle could be brought on that. It would be very cheap. It just would take him longer to get to Israel. It was a question of 2-3 weeks of traveling. And he had explained to my mother how much I missed my bicycle, and that it would be nice if he would bring it to me. And at the same time, he's in Israel for a month. He was going to stay 1 month in Israel, he had told her. He was going to see if there's maybe a future for all of us in Israel. All of a sudden, he expressed this feeling to her that he's becoming a Zionist. What a liar. What a liar he was. Anyway, it seemed that that was going to work out. And after I was in Israel for about 6 months, sure enough, he conned her into coming by himself with my bicycle. And there he was. He came to visit me. And he found a tiny room. He came with my bicycle. Well, needless to say, I was in heaven to have my bike and him. And I didn't have the guilt. I didn't feel any guilt at that time because I was so far away from my mother, so that she wasn't around. But anyway, he found this tiny room very close to where I was living, and I saw him quite a lot. I mean, every free moment I had in the evening, the curfew was yet, everybody had to be back at 10 p.m., but any free time I had, I was going to see him. And he did not budge from Jerusalem. He didn't even visit Israel. All he wanted to do was be near me. That's how strongly he had expressed his love, that he doesn't even care to visit the country like most tourists do. And one day he went to the head of the schoolmaster, the head of the principal as such, and he said that his daughter, that he would like to take his daughter to visit the country, and would permission be given to take me away for 2 weeks. Now, of course they knew he was my stepfather, since he had a different name than mine, but they found this perfectly natural. They did not object. I also mentioned that the difference in our ages is 16 years, but he really looked much older. I guess because he was bald. And I, for some reason, always looked younger. At 16, I looked like 40. I mean, I always looked younger. So they certainly, it never occurred to them that there was a different relationship here than father and daughter. Anyway, they agreed to the 2 weeks. And so for 2 weeks, him and I went around the country from hotel to hotel. And everywhere we registered was under father and daughter. And everybody believed he was my father. He could very easily have passed as my father. I looked younger. He looked older. He could have had a child at 21 very easily. So that we spent 2 weeks that were incredible. 90% of the time all we did was make love. He had this hunger, constant hunger for me. He couldn't lay off my body, my hands, my face, my breast. He just couldn't lay off me. And the more we would make love, the more I responded. And that's when I really woke up to, I think that at the age of 16 about, which is really very early for a girl, but I really responded to such degree completely, that as much as he wanted me, that's how much I wanted him. And it was a period of, it was wonderful. I just can't help it. I didn't feel guilty. I mean, she just was too far away, and it was just fantastic. The whole 2 weeks were unreal. They flew. We went to Tel Aviv together, to Haifa, to other small towns that I had never seen before, and to have all these experiences with him were indescribable, because as we were traveling, he was very well-read man, and he would fully go into all the details of where we were. And I remember when walking in Jerusalem together, he would say that each step that you walk on in this street or that street has a history. I mean, he was the constant tutor, the constant teacher. He was Pygmalion all over. But when we traveled together those 2 weeks, it was unbelievable. And about 8-10 years ago, there was the book, and then they made a movie of it, Lolita. And when I read the book originally, I'm saying, oh my God, that was me. It was so similar. I was Lolita. There was no question about it. Anyway, the whole month was over. The 2 weeks being alone with him had to come to an end. And it was again goodbye. And I cried, and I missed him, and it was very sad. But now, during the 2 weeks I was away, when I did come back and say goodbye to him, my roommates, the 7 girls I shared the room with, oh, they were absolutely so envious of me. They thought I was so lucky. My stepfather is such a nice guy. Never in a million years did it occur to them what our real relationship was. They were also extremely jealous that I owned a bicycle. I was the only one out of 250 girls that owned a bicycle in Israel, which is quite an event. I mean, we were all new immigrants. None of us had a penny to our name. And here he actually brought my bicycle back. There were a few others who came from divorced parents. They weren't sharing the same room I was in, but after a while we all got to know one another. And they were also amazed what a wonderful stepfather I had. I remember them approaching me because within an hour the whole place knew that my stepfather had come all the way from Belgium with my bicycle. They couldn't believe how great he was, how lucky I was, how wonderful, how very lucky I was to have such a stepfather. Oh my God, if they would have only known. It would have shocked the whole place upside down, including the principal of that school. I mean, some stepfather, some bastard, when I look back on it. Oh yes, when he had to leave eventually, when the month was up, he made me promise he gave me the promise that he's going back to Belgium, that he's going to try to make a lot of money, which he was never capable of since he was a dreamer, an intellectual dreamer. The only one who was able to make money was my mother. But that's how he talked. He talked. I said before, he should have been a lawyer. But anyway, he says, I'm going to make a lot of money, and then I'm going to visit you twice a year, and we're going to be very happy. And when you're much older, I will divorce her and marry you. The same old garbage. The point was that at that point I had no guilt since she was so far away. And I was so happy with what he was saying. I said, yes, we'll be happy. We'll do this together and that together. And I completely dismissed her from my mind. She was like a complete stranger that the poor guy, Maurice, had no choice but to live with her so that he could make enough money, and one day he'll be rewarded and have me as his wife. It was such fantasy. It was such a stupid calculation on my part of believing what he was talking about. I went along with everything he said to me. And anyway, he went back and life went on, and I had my bicycle, and the same routine went back into effect, and our correspondence with him and I, the P.O. box number was was something else. His letters, thank God I threw them all out. Eventually I threw them all out. For years I was saving them. But one time, many years later, I was very angry at something. I just threw them all away. If I only was more articulate. Here goes the put down again. He wrote letters that were indescribable. His emotions, his feelings, his love for me was expressed. It blew my mind. It really blew my mind. And then he would talk about my body and about very intimate parts of myself and how I would react to this and that, and he would write it, spell it all out. Just reading them got me so excited and shook up. It took me a couple of hours to get over the letters he wrote to me. Wow, were they powerful. And I'd answer back as best as I possibly could and encouraging him to continue writing this way. It was so sick. The whole thing now, of course now, it's easy now when I look back, how very sick this was. As long as he was writing to me and I was writing back, I never had a chance. I absolutely never had a chance for life of my own. He was always inside of me. His ghost was constantly with me. I just could not get that man out of my system. And it was sick, sick, sick. It's enough of him now. I can't continue talking about him. All I'm saying is that the correspondence lasted for years. But